Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Newington Board of Education to order for Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. The time is 7:01 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Deb, would you please call the roll?
Mary Beach.
Here.
John Halloran.
Here.
Russell Landry.
Here.
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 Sam Sharma.
Here.
Brian Elo.
We're here.
Dr. Gail Stanley.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
I'm present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up to public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. There's no one in the room, but if anyone online wants to be recognized, please raise your hand. Seeing none, go to our first item on the agenda, which is budget workshop.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to start off with, if it's all right with the chair, to review the questions that the board had posed at the end of the last meeting.
Absolutely.
My team and I have spent time kind of researching all of that, so hopefully we've come tonight prepared to share our findings. So I'm going to go right to the page that has the questions on it. All right, there we go. All right, so there was, thank you. Thank you for always helping me stay on track. The transportation budget detail was a request. And also in the course of the review of these questions, Ms. Bover is going to also chime in as to whether this analysis led us to recommend any cuts. So that will be part of our discussion tonight, because it was our understanding that the reason behind some of these questions is there any room for reductions as a result of these analyses? So one of the first questions posed by the board was our current transportation budget and whether or not there are any indicators here that we can reduce based on experience. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Bover to discuss her findings.
I went through the budget and looked at all the line items.
You have to put your mic on.
So sorry. When I went through the budget and looked at the line items, I did a comparative analysis over the years and saw that we have not been using all of the budget we've been asking for gasoline for regular ed and special ed transportation. When you look at it, we've been very lucky piggybacking on the town. So we're purchasing it from the towns. We're not paying as much instead of when we were buying it from the retailers because they're for profit. The town's not. So I would recommend that we cut both of those lines, which is 2,700, 626.30 and 2,700, 626.71 each by $46,000.
So I color coded it red if it can be cut. I will also, after these questions and answers are concluded, we've created a reconciliation document for the board to review, which kind of shows, luckily, the downward trend of the budget based on the findings of these analyses. So now I'll go back to, are there any questions on that particular analysis?
Is this just because we're getting a cheaper rate, as you said, by going, like partnering with the town?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, the next area we looked at was the maintenance budget detail. And Lynn created a very nifty spreadsheet, and it analyzes actuals for the last 5 years, as I believe we were asked to look at a 5-year look back. So I will turn it to her to explain what this analysis showed us.
In looking at the figures, it seems like since the MDC has reduced its rates, we didn't reduce our budget. So I would recommend that for E-Green, we reduce our budget by $3,661. Anna Reynolds, we reduce our budget by $6,661. Ruth Chafee, we reduce our budget by $6,661. John Patterson, we would reduce by $6,661. Martin Kellogg, we would reduce by $20,876. The total reduction in that line would be $44,520.
And if I'm not mistaken, at the very bottom, you notice some in-kind services.
The in-kind services could also be cut, but I did not get a chance to put those onto the cut sheet.
Okay. So just to explain that to the board, we share obviously this building with the town. We occupy the top floor. And the way we offset payment for things is through in-kind services. So we get a credit for things that on their side and vice versa. And what we noticed is we don't really have to outlay any money for water or sewer. Lynn, I should say, Lynn noticed that. So that is where she recommended completely eliminating funding those lines in addition to those other cuts. So we'll show you that sum total minus the $10,000, which has to come out yet. Or I'm sorry, 11,108, correct, Lynn?
11,108.
So that won't show up on the sheet tonight, but the other cuts will, just for board consideration. Okay. We were also asked to look at a 5-year look back of the technology maintenance repair budget. And this actually revealed that we typically do use or sometimes overspend in certain areas.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. So sorry. This shows that, well, let me have Lynn explain it based on her talented eye, but I'll let you go.
If you look at the chart up there, it shows the 5-year trend along with what we have available and encumbered and what we've actually spent year to date. I would not recommend cutting this budget because if one server goes down, that could cost us $20,000 to replace and we wouldn't have any money to replace it. So for this one, I would not recommend a cut.
Okay. So any questions on that analysis? All righty. The next,
Ms. Weaver. So when, just say like none of those funds are used, are they in the same line for technology or where do those kind of go if we're?
It's in the technology
Budget,
budget.
okay.
So if they did not use these and they needed them in another line, they'd be transferred
Okay,
to that other line.
just within the technology one though.
Correct.
Thank you.
all right, the next area that we looked at was non-certified staffing by school. I will say that other than for office professionals or administrative secretarial, that number is typically very stable. Paras, registered behavior technicians, open choice paras, that varies, actually could even be day to day. But this at least gives you a current snapshot, well, a snapshot of whenever Lynn pulled this data, it could have already changed because literally paras come and go on a daily basis. But what you can see here is each school from, you can say by school, Anna Reynolds, Chafee, Patterson, they each have 2 office professionals. The 2 middle schools each have 2.5, which essentially is a part-timer, 2 people and then a part-time person. The high school has 9. The reason they have so many more, in addition to having a bigger population of students, is that they're divided into houses and every house has secretaries. The counseling office has secretaries. So there is a lot of operational things that require more secretarial support. That's actually where our residency central registrar is located. So there's a lot of services going on at the high school that make that a more active place for secretarial support. Transition Academy, located here, does not have a secretary. The finance office has 4 at central office. The curriculum department has 2. Our ed tech, technology and operations, they split the same person 3 ways. Security has, one secretary, but that person is located at the high school. Transportation has a halftime secretary. Food service has one. Nursing has a halftime person, and special ed has two. There's also, I don't know if it's here it is. There's also, a floater that's located at central office unless there is a secretary out on long-term medical leave, then that individual floats. Or if we have a vacancy that hasn't been filled right away, which is currently the situation, the floater is now at the high school because we have a vacancy in the special ed secretarial office. So total of 32 unionized secretaries and 2 that are not. Typically, our part-timers are not unionized. That's true for bus drivers as well. This is the more volatile line. This is the para line, which, as you know, we receive a lot of questions about it, especially this year with asking for benefits. But this line represents all the positions that should be there. Some of these are currently vacant, but as you can see, it varies a bit by school. Reynolds has a couple of specialty programs there. They've got some preschool classrooms and a K-4 extension program. Chafee is a little bit of a smaller school, but they do also have some specialty programs. Green has pre-K and some a K-4 extension program. Patterson has the specialized behavior program there, as well as 4 preschool classrooms. And then Martin Kellogg has some developmental programs that are above and beyond what the other middle school has, but John Wallace also has a specialized connections program. And the high school, as you might imagine, has the most paras because there's the most students there in terms of special ed support. But that also includes 2 classrooms for developmentally delayed students, as well as paras that support other students within the classroom environment. Our Transition Academy has 8 paraprofessionals. They typically run almost a 1-to-1 program down there because these students who are the 18 to 22-year-olds, they go out into the job market. And when they go out, they have to have the para with them for coaching and support. So that is why that is a heavy amount of paras for that program. And then registered behavior technicians are paras, but they have a higher level of training. They've had to pass what's called an RBT test, which also includes some oversight by BCBA, so they do make a higher pay. They're also a bit more skilled, so they do provide more support behaviorally. They take a lot of data. They know a lot more about data analysis and data collection. You can see those vary by school, and it largely has to do with student need. But in some cases, when we were having trouble filling with paras, we did opt to hire an RBT because they were easier to fill and they're actually a little bit more talented in terms of their service provision. In those cases, we might forego 2 paras for 1 RBT for the cost comparison. So these are the totals at every school based on paras, RBTs, and then the grand total in that salmon color. And then just for board information, every school has vacancies. And if you recall from my report that Mr. Freese put together, there were 25 vacancies in December at the time that he wrote that report about our difficulty recruiting and retaining paraprofessionals. But you can see right now, going down the list, that each school has at least 1 para vacancy, except for the Transition Academy, and most have multiple para vacancies. So in years past, we've shared with the board that that's a line item that we often have some money left at the end of the year because a lot of those positions go unfilled or filled, unfilled, filled, unfilled throughout the year. We also have to provide these services because, as many of you know, these are special education students, the paraprofessionals typically listed in their IEP. So we have to have these folks here. We sometimes use a contracted agency, like Delta T is one example, and they are able to provide us with a para. Unfortunately, it's a much higher cost, whereas our paras probably cost the district about $24,000 annually. These agency paraprofessionals can be $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 because those are for-profit agencies. So they need to take their cut. And in some cases, they pay benefits. So that's even higher outlay of money. So you can see by school, each school has some paraprofessionals who are contracted. And Lynn, remind me what the purple paraprofessional contracted that we pay. What is that?
Those are the
Virgin?
ones that are out that we had to fill that we are paying for right now. So we're using the money from the open positions to pay for these contracted positions for jobs where we absolutely have to have a human being helping a child. So those purple are all, we're paying for them at the really high price. It's usually 2 for 1. 2 of our paras equal 1 of theirs. And the ones in blue, those are the ones that are open choice. So they come, Hartford provides them for us, CREC provides them. We do not.
We get charged, but we get
We do get
reimbursed.
charged, but we're reimbursed. Sorry.
Mr. Newton?
Quick question, not to digress. Do RBTs get medical benefits?
No,
They're considered paras? Okay,
yes.
just curious.
Sorry, can you just, column G is the number temporarily filled by contracted staff, what is that versus H?
G versus H.
D is the total of all that are,
Okay, purple
Yeah.
plus blue, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's our snapshot. There's totals at the bottom. So we have, yeah, we have a lot of vacancies. So these are the grand totals at the bottom. And obviously our goal is always to hire our own staff because we can do it at a cheaper cost, but in recent years, that's been very challenging to do without some reliance on those agencies. So all in all, if we were to offer para benefits, we would not have to worry about CREC because they take care of that. But the total staff on these pages would be eligible for para benefits if that were to be approved.
Ms. Weaver?
And just for clarifying, so when we're talking about adding their healthcare, we already saw the budget impact. Just to give more clarity on this, how much is that per para?
It's 17,500 and that's for single coverage.
So even so, if we're doing the 24 plus 17, it's likely less than a contracted
Yes,
para. So just to show the cost differential there as well.
right. And that's an excellent point. And the other point that I failed to make was we've also hired more permanent subs recently to also help us with para shortfalls. Those are slightly easier positions to fill. We're way up on that line because of our para challenge. So if this para benefit package were to be approved, we anticipate being able to reduce some of our permanent building subs. As well as I mentioned during my original budget presentation, something called the time work bonus. That is something that allows some of our paras to get additional money at the end of the year if they've got strong attendance. We would make it a mandate that if you are getting the fairly significant benefit of medical insurance at 17,500 per person, that you would no longer be eligible to receive the time work bonus. However, there would still be a cadre of paras and tutors that would not need or would not take the benefits, so they would still be eligible for that. We anticipate or calculate that we could reduce the budget by $200,000 in permanent building subs and in the time work bonus if this were to be funded through the benefit program. We could reduce those 2 lines.
I just have a question on how you get to the staffing numbers required at each school. I know that there's some IEPs that specifically say you need a 1-to-1. Hopefully there's no 2-to-1s, but as far as
On
like
occasion.
as far as the, like in the pre-K classrooms or the what are the K4 extension, is there like how many are 1-to-1s versus just classroom staff.
I'd probably have to do a deeper analysis to show you that particular data. I would tell you that we've got at a minimum one classroom para for every pre-K program. And then generally, if it's in any of those pre-K programs, there's typically at least a student that requires a one-to-one para. More so in the intensive pre-K that's housed at Patterson, where those children are, sometimes not mobile, nonverbal. And then I mentioned at the Transition Academy, there's just about all one-to-ones in that program. When you get into the other schools, it's a combination. Not every while every para is noted in the IEP, it might not be a one-to-one. It might say para support during reading instruction, para support during math instruction, para support for behavior management. So it's partial para, so that one para may be assigned to several different students throughout the day, or in a classroom where there are 4 or 5 students who all have some sort of support with a para on their IEP. Obviously, one-to-one para is a very restrictive service. We don't want kids to rely on paras. A lot of times it is, though, a safety situation. In some cases, students require hygiene support. So those are all things that a para would do during the day. Some of our children need help with feeding. So there's a wide range of things that our paras do. So that's why it would be a combination of one-to-ones as well as folks that provide support to numerous kids throughout the day.
Dr. Stanley?
Thank you. When we estimate, so for the budget, we are trying to present something that fills all of the empty positions, correct?
That's correct.
And so when we generate this estimate, are we estimating at the higher cost of contracted paras or at our NPS cost?
We are doing both. We have this, because we're not sure if the para benefits will go through, we did leave a pretty comparable contracted services budget line in the budget right now. That is probably something that we could look at as well if the para benefits are funded. But we couldn't take the chance that if that does not happen, then we are more likely than not going to need contracted services next year. Similar, we would not probably be able to reduce our permanent building subs and the time work bonus, because the time work bonus is one of the few benefits that our folks get. So these are all, that's what makes this budgeting for this particular group a little challenging right now, because there's some unknowns.
Gotcha. And then final question. So despite these openings and despite us using contracted services, we are still not filled to capacity,
That's
right?
correct.
And so what happens at the end of the money that is realized savings for the positions that we don't fill?
At the end of the year, after we've balanced our budget and everything is balanced, then that money can be used for the non-lapsing fund, transfer to non-lapsing fund. That's typically what would happen. Or in some cases last year, correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn, did we use any realized savings last year for a bus or part of a bus? Because we didn't get funding for buses last year.
We paid for the entire bus and a piece of the other one.
Okay. So that's, we kind of make up for, ultimately though, there are 2 buses, not pieces. But yeah, some of that is real. We reallocate the resources to pay for things that weren't funded, but more often than not, at least in recent years, we would transfer some of that money into the non-lapsing fund.
And some of the money too from last year went back to the town as
We
well.
did, because at the end of last year, we did not yet have approval for a 2% non-lapsing fund. So therefore, we had to transfer, I believe it was $600,000 back to the town. We call that declaring a surplus. But this year, we've since, as the board is aware, have now approval for a 2% non-lapsing fund. So if this were to happen this year, we would be allowed to transfer up to 2% of any monies left over at the end of the year. If we were to, for some reason, exceed that, then we would have the same dilemma as we had last year, where we'd have to send money back to the town.
Dr. Stanley.
And then how do we decide where that money goes? So I hear that we used some of our realized savings for buses, but was that a decision by the superintendent, or was that presented to the board, or?
That was something that I decided in conjunction with the business office. The board is apprised of the balance at the end of the year. The board is apprised of the determination about sending it to the non-lapsing fund. But once the money is allocated to the board, we have the discretion to spend it, even if it's not in the same line item that it was assigned to originally.
Thank you for the clarification.
And I just have another back on the number of paras. So right now we are in compliance with all IEPs, right? Because that's legally our obligation. So the reason that we have some still unfilled is because those are those extra, not extra because I know we need them, but are they paras that are supposed to be in like a preschool classroom that might already have a para in there? So I guess how is that determination made? And I just want to make sure we're in compliance, even though we have vacancies, but we really could use the full support.
Right. I mean, currently, if the paras are absent, we don't have a sub-para pool, so we're out of luck there. The principal would assign a permanent building sub to be a para for the day. The special ed teacher may be spread even thinner than they already are to make sure those hours are provided by a teacher versus a para. Sometimes our tutors leave their post and become paras for the day. So yeah, there's kind of a rob Peter to pay Paul mentality that principals have to do every day if they know that they've got a high need student who needs absolute supervision. Sometimes we can go without it for a little bit, but it is very challenging, and it's a frustration among our principals that they have all these uncovered positions and they're trying to figure out what to do. I will tell you, it does impact the students too, because even if we are able to fill it with a permanent building sub, or, the tutor comes down and becomes a para for the day, which they don't particularly like, it's not the same person that they're used to, and that does impact children in terms of their adaptability. So there are a lot of challenges when we're not fully staffed. So yeah, we do everything in our power to be in compliance. There are days when it's very challenging, but I know the principals do the best they can do to reassign people to support positions. We do get also, probably just ended recently, when kids are on winter break from their universities, we have a cooperative agreement with Central. So in the month of January, we're pretty flush with paras because they are coming in from Central or neighboring schools, and they can fill those voids. So January is a good month. Once those kids all go back to school, which has happened, and then we're back to kind of where we always have been.
Yes, I know a preschool teacher who takes advantage of those central students.
Yes, they do great. It's great. It's a great relationship, and always hoping a couple of them want to be teachers down the road.
Thank you. Any other questions on this piece?
The next area was the dues and fees. I'll let Lynn speak to this in terms of whether there were any substantial findings of trends that you noted.
When we looked at all of the dues and fees, the accounts are pretty much in alignment with what we've been spending year over year. We have already reduced, prior to you even seeing the budget, anything that we found that was a duplication, because there were some. So we had cut them out already, Karen, Thea and I, when we went through the budget. So I believe that everything is in alignment, and it is what we need.
So there's a multitude of organizations that we belong to. I don't know if there's any questions about that. NESDEC does our enrollment studies. CASBO's the business manager group. Partners for Education is a superintendent that I belong to. School music license, a few years ago, we adopted that. It allows us to use music of our choice for productions without being in copyright violation. So we have found that to be a very important tool to make sure a music program can be robust. So I don't know if there's any particular questions about what we belong to, but you know, many, or if not all of these are recognized organizations that support our variety of employees to give them professional development opportunities. It is, I think, a very important thing to have these organizations available to our staff. Okay. So no cuts recommended there at this time. Alrighty. So then the next area that we were asked to look at was IT repairs. And I will let Lynn speak to her analysis there. We did that one? Oh my gosh. Okay. There was a question about special education, about whether or not our current expenditures warrant us to look at what we've requested for next year. I will tell you, this year we requested $4,785,000 in our budget for, and this gets into mostly tuitions, either an outplaced school or the money that we need to pay for kids who are in magnet schools that require special education services. Currently, we are anticipating, again, if no one else hasn't need to go out, but there are a few on deck, we would look at potentially a $1.2 million balance. But I want you to know, and we're probably the only, I would venture a guess that this is a pretty rare occurrence. We are asking for a lower amount this year based on our experiences. You don't often see that. A lot of my colleagues are going much higher in special ed expenditures, and I think a lot of this has to do with our careful cultivation of in-district programs. So we are asking for about $600,000 less than we did last year. We also, that number can also be slightly reduced for next year because of our anticipated excess cost offsets. And as a reminder, excess cost is the grant that we get from the state for any of our students that are costing the district more than 4.5 times the regular per pupil cost. And we're anticipating, Lynn, do you recall the anticipated? So $1.7 million is anticipated, and we bake that right into the budget as an offset. So those are the analysis that we prepared for the board this evening. I would like to show the board what where we were and where we are. So prior to this evening, or as we enter the discussions this evening, the reductions that have been put into play thus far have been the, what I presented already, is the buy-ahead, anticipated buy-aheads, the use of $1 million in non-lapsing resources, and we had initially not put in $185,000 in seed money. So at the start of tonight's meeting, we were at 5.48%, not counting the para benefits, which brings us up to at a $1.6 million expenditure, and that would result in another 1.75% increase for a grand total of 7.23 as of right now before anything changes. What we'd like to recommend or consider for the board for their consideration are the following. Okay, so we did cut IXL licensure. I forget if that was a duplication or just an unnecessary expenditure. So that was 7,100, and that put us at the same, basically the same thing, 5.47. But here is a laundry list of what Lynn has extrapolated from the budget through all of that careful analysis. Most of it resulted in recommendations for reductions. One of the things that we did look at is telephone, and that actually caused us to take pause and say we're under budgeted for telephone at the high school. So that was an add back in of 14,000, but you can see a fairly significant reduction in, again, analysis of the workers' comp insurance was another thing that we talked about. 20,000 reduction can be done. Property insurance, water and sewer, as Lynn outlined earlier, with higher amounts at our bigger schools. Telephone services were over budgeted except at the high school. We felt we could reduce those. DW, telephone services, DW, district-wide? Okay. Rubbish at the high school was over. We thought we could reduce that. And that's like collection services. Uniforms, that's for generally our custodians and in some cases IT. We talked about the gas reduction of $46,000 for both regular gas and gas for the special ed routes. We are now wanting to calculate in, although I've already explained it, the cost of the para benefits will be 1.6 million. So when you add and subtract with what we're recommending, this brings our total ask down to 6.91, and that it does include the para tutor benefits. If the town does fund those, you can see that we're able to recommend a reduction in the time work bonus, a reduction in building subs, and this actually came in late night edition here, 16,250. Remind me what that is, Lynn?
That was, it was a double posting of salaries. I budgeted for them in the salaries and they accidentally were budgeted in services. So we cut that.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I would highly recommend not doing the reductions for time work bonus or the building subs until we know that the benefits are going to be funded. I believe we can look at that HCD contracted services and put that under that. Yeah, if you could move that up so we get a clearer picture, because the rest, I think, need to be press pause until we know where we stand.
So when we, like tonight, we'll kind of take over the budget from you, and then we will discuss these cuts and any others that people might have been thinking of. But when we transmit to the town, ultimately, wouldn't we, I guess, are we transmitting two versions, or are we transmitting the version that we want, which is with para benefits?
I only did two versions just to show this significant impact on our budget to include those benefits. But I would absolutely recommend that the board transmit that as a total, a
Yeah.
package.
So I think that and we can discuss too, but when we do that, we would include the para benefits, reduce the line items that can be reduced if that goes through. But then when we present to the town council in 3 weeks or so, we would say if this doesn't go through, we can't reduce the budget by 1.6 million. We'd actually be reducing it by whatever the net is. So when we present, you can cut it by 1.6, but then we have to add back in 205 according to what this says,
That is correct. So it's either, leave that 1.6 million in and we can take out $205,000 for a net increase, I guess, of 1.4 million or 1.
Like, yeah, so
395.
like they couldn't cut 1.6, they'd have to cut that 1.395
That's correct.
if they wanted to. Okay, if they didn't want para benefits, it would be 1.395. I think we just have to spell that out for them because we want to
Absolutely.
include all of this in our request.
And I would definitely do a graphic showing the reductions. And obviously, as the board hopefully can tell by our analysis between last meeting and this, we have been sharpening our pencil and our eraser to look at what we can reduce. And actually, Mr. Dias did do a little analysis of printing that kind of came up as well. I don't know if you want to speak to that. Both, he looked at, adult ed, and then he looked at the, census that we take annually. Not a big find, but just kind of a quick explanation of what you saw on that.
Yeah, so we did look into that request if we just did apartments for the coming year for the preschool census. So we did get an estimate around $2,400 for that, but that wasn't including postage. We spent about $9,500 last year doing homes and apartments. So maybe a savings about $4,000 if we cut that. The challenge would be just being new in the role. What day are we going to get accurate data for our preschool census if we don't include homes this year? So just consider that in that decision, that if we do, we could do apartments one year, homes and apartments every other year. I can't predict the impact yet and how accurate our data would be if we did that.
And we do get, as I mentioned earlier, we subscribe to NESDEC, and they look at our birth records. That's part of their service. So they give us a general, as accurate as that can be. You're born in Newington, you might move. But that gives us another data point about how many kids we can anticipate at pre-K, K level. And then your analysis of adult ed, basically.
Yes, there are mandates on certain courses that we do have to send out. So we could potentially try to reduce and maybe do a one pager and put a QR code for other courses. If we want to do that, but I want to say we talked about being grant. Isn't that a grant as is?
It's
Yeah.
mandated by the state of Connecticut that we have a certain amount of money. The state gives us money and we have to provide the rest, and we have to provide the budget that the state tells us we have to spend on adult education.
So that might not be worthwhile pursuing. The other one is a judgment call, as Mr. Dias said. You might save about $4,000, but we might have a less accurate pool of data. It's just, as with any of these decisions, there are, cautions. So that concludes my, update. Oh, pardon me. So I'll go back to, all right.
Okay. So I would suggest that we adopt the budget as ours. So how it works is we just take it over as ours, and then we are able to, Dr. Brummett and her team obviously are not done, but they took it as far as they can go. And then the rest is, for us to make recommended changes, or if we have other thoughts on, what to do with the budget. So the first thing to do is, you have the motion?
It's on the screen.
Oh, perfect.
Um,
That's a good point. We would do I guess,
we're gonna combine them.
Are these the superintendent's cuts still, or are we adopting the?
we're not gonna vote on the cuts yet. We're gonna do what it is currently today.
So that would be this, chart right here.
Yeah.
So the two together, the para budget as well as the operating budget combined, would be the request of 98,233,771, or a 7.23% increase. All right, let me go back to the motion.
Just want to note for those at the board table, voting yes on this does not mean you're approving the budget. You're just accepting it. Just a clarification. Okay. Move the Newington Board of Education adopt the superintendent of schools proposed budget for the 2026-2027 year of $98,233,771, or 7.23%.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? And like Ms. Weaver said, this is not the final budget. Obviously, we still have our work to do, but this is just giving us the opportunity to make changes.
Roll call vote, please.
Mary Beatrice,
Yes.
John Halloran,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Tim Newton,
Yes.
Amy Parati,
Yes.
Brian Tebow,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Dr. Bill Stanley,
Yes.
Jessica Weaver.
Yes.
Thank you. Yay. We have a budget. Okay, so then I guess I'll just open it up for discussion or questions or comments or anything that anyone is, like what are we thinking? Ms. Weaver.
Just want to say a huge thank you, Len. This is awesome. Start once more. Well, not start, but but just as we look at, thank you for going through this with a very fine tooth comb. Appreciate it and finding all of those detail and those finer points. We appreciate the work. Seriously, thank you. So I would just say I feel really good about adding those cuts and endorsing those cuts, and also feel very strongly about the para benefits. I know we've kind of discussed this around the table, but I think just wanting to reiterate that I'm fully for the para benefits, and I think that will give us a better sense of honestly, just for planning purposes as well. I think this has been a real hard thing to budget for, and we only see the cost and the need continuing to rise, particularly when we look at our numbers too, for special ed. So I would hope that we tonight at least could accept the recommendations. I fully endorse those from the CFO as a great start. So just wanted to put that out there. And I think for now, I think that would be a great option that we take in, but also then taking in the adjustment for the para tutor and RBT insurance to do so.
Thank you.
I'll have other thoughts. Just wanted to say thanks.
Mr. Holleran.
Yes, I just want to thank Lynn as well for finding, based upon our questions, $136,000 to pull from the water in gas budgets. I thought that was an excellent find, and thank you for being able to realize some of that savings. The increase is high because of the paras, especially considering that this is the year that the town's going through reevaluations as well. I think it's going to be very tight for the town to pass a budget. So I would expect to have quite a bit of reconciliation after we get the final answer from the town. But I think we've done a great job of really trying to dig deep. At least the superintendent and her staff have, but now we've got to try to figure out where else we can whittle away on that too, because the 7% is large. So we should expect that we are going to have to find somewhere, somehow, to try to get that down where we can without impacting our students. And I think that that's kind of a reminder of what we're here for. We're here to advocate for our school system and our students, try to be responsible with taxpayer money, but at the end of the day too, we shouldn't be doing a disservice to those that we have been elected to serve. This is a different approach to the budget this year. I think it makes it easier for me to kind of figure out where possible wiggle room might be. But it's just getting started.
Other question? Dr. Brummett, I see buses at the bottom there. Did we talk about what you heard today? We don't have to. We don't have to, let's just talk about buses for a second.
Sure, of course. So, the town manager reached out to me earlier today to inquire as to if he were to cut our capital ask for the buses down to $800,000, what would that do in terms of ability to purchase buses? Lynn looked at it quickly because this came in later in this afternoon, and we're projecting 5 buses. However, I've asked Dean to take a look at it as well, because obviously he would need to prioritize the buses that are in most urgent need of, that they're ready to conk out, so to speak. So, what we anticipate $800,000 would allow us to buy 5 to 6 buses of various sizes. So that was one of his questions. Another question he posed is, would it affect our ask at all if the para-tutor RBT insurance was only offered to folks who are full-time? And I analyzed our para-tutor list, and all but 5 of them are full-time anyway. So it was a very small impact to just isolate, but I think it's certainly appropriate to not offer benefits to someone who's not working for us full-time. So makes perfect sense to have that criteria. But I reminded him that if this were to go through, that we could cut the budget in the time work bonus and in the permanent sub line. So he is aware of that. I also said the board would be having a work session this evening, and there may be potentially other reductions. He did not mention anything else in our exchange. I appreciated the outreach, appreciated the collaboration. He did express that, as to some of our board members this evening, it's a reevaluation year, and that will have an impact on our community. So they're under that pressure to consider all stakeholders. But that's pretty much the extent of our conversation. We'll probably circle back tomorrow after tonight's meeting, but that's kind of where we landed. And I believe we mentioned earlier, last year we only received funding, not even for one full bus. So we backfilled the budget with to backfill for one budget, or one bus rather. And then Dean was just very concerned about another bus being needed. So we were able to reallocate some realized savings to purchase 2 buses. I think I did share with the board, I'm certain Dean has in his presentations, that the ordering time on buses right now is extraordinarily long and variable. So some buses have been on order for over a year. And then even when they arrive, they need to be treated with certain add-ons like radios and things that are specific to us. So the lead time on buses is a concern. It will take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to get a bus. And they're not getting any cheaper. They are going up every year for a variety of reasons.
And just to clarify, or just for me to clarify, we asked for the 7 million for buses?
1.5 million, I believe.
1.5. And that would have been to purchase, how many do we need to buy this year? Was it 7?
It was 7 and then the bubble issue.
And then the bubble issue. So, so with this $800,000 cut, and obviously we don't really have control over what the town side does, but with that, we would be 2 buses short for this year and not accounting for the bubble issue for future years. Yes, go ahead, Lynn.
The buses might not all be full-size buses. I know today we blew the transmission on one of our vans and have to get that replaced. So it might be some of the service vans too.
Okay. Mr. Newton?
Would it be too crazy to offer the town, say, just throw an idea in my head, we'll give you 250,000 from our non-lapsing to get us up to that $1 million we need for the good purchase of a bunch of buses? Only if they approve the 800 though. I'm not into giving them money. Then they say, oh, well, now we're going to give you 600. I'm saying, is it unrealistic?
The board could choose to make that determination at the end of the year. Say we either have realized savings or we don't have to dip into the non-lapsing fund this year. The board could say, we know we're only going to get 800,000 from the town. Why don't we use some non-lapsing fund resources to balance what we need for buses, especially in light of the transmission issue that I didn't even know about. So that's absolutely a possibility.
Thank you. And then just a clarification on the tutor, the para insurance. that 1.6 million on the screen and then the two reductions. The 1.6 million, is that not including the 5 part-timers? So would we be able to
Yes.
reduce that by, or that is already accounting for the?
We
5
already
part-timers?
shaved off a little,
Okay.
from that. It was, yeah, was it 80,000 you said?
Okay, because I thought
Right.
it was like 1.7, so that was. It was 168. Okay, perfect. So that's already off there.
That's considered, yes,
And then the time work bonus is that 105.
correct.
Is that, and then the permanent building subs is 100.
We anticipate that would cover about 4.
And then we talked also about contracted services. Is that another line item?
It could
It's
be,
not on
yes.
there.
I could have Lynn and I spoke of that earlier this evening, part of the meeting about, we've left the contracted service line pretty stable because we didn't know whether, the para benefits would be funded. We could look at that with a sharper eye and see kind of to the extent that we've done on line 59 and 60 here, could we reduce that with the commitment that the insurance is funded? You know, we're gambling a little bit by saying, we're assuming, but I think it's a reasonable assumption that once we get benefits, we're going to keep people or attract more people. So that would reduce our reliance on those contracted services. So we can look at that and see if there's any type of analysis we could do that would be safe. But again, contingent upon, because we can't give up those items and then not get the benefits because we'd be taking a huge step backwards.
Yes, and we would include if there was another line item that could be reduced or that line item that could
Mhm.
reduce, we would then bundle that together and make it when we present to the
Correct.
council, we would say
We
that
would make sure there
this
was
is the
clear.
actual cost of para insurance after considering the cuts that we
Mhm.
we made. Okay.
And to the other questions about, Mr. Halloran indicated any more cuts, you know, Lynn and I were meeting earlier today, we can continue to look at our projections, look at our trends and see if there are other areas that we'd be willing to recommend, knowing what our experiences are this year. Unfortunately, we will not get any further updates about insurance until April. So we've kind of had to leave that fully funded. Now, you know, April, unfortunately, our budget's already said and done by then. Another reason why we sometimes have realized savings, because we have to put in the full amount and then sometimes it scales down by April. This year, it's kind of been scaling more up than down, but you just never know. It's just all about experience and claims and those sorts of things. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Lynn, about our ongoing analysis.
When I was looking, while you were speaking earlier, I was looking at some of the lines and I found an additional $39,077 that could be cut.
Oh, no big deal. Perfect. That's great.
It's just the savings you spoke of earlier for the in-kind services. I
Oh,
went,
that's right, we didn't put that in.
we did not, and I just went through and found those, so that would give us another 39,000.
39,000 even?
$39,077. I can put it on the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Just let us know if you find anything else. Go ahead, Ms. Weaver.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things obviously we kind of talked about in the last ones as we grilled was just how it looks the appropriated versus actuals. And obviously, Lynn and I were discussing before the meeting, the frustration of the timeline. Like, has it always been this way that we pass a budget before we know all of the things that, and I know other towns, like we were saying, some do it in February. It makes it very difficult to do this. Even so, like, I think I've prefaced this before, but obviously putting the budget into the town council as really a request, and then they'll come back with a number, but we don't know about it until a month later that we do this. It just becomes inefficient, I think, and difficult to try and capture, I think, what we're really trying to capture. But yeah, anywhere I think where we can find more of the actual expenditures that are trending in a certain way that may have a significant difference, I think is really where we'll get some of, I think, the more significant cuts. And obviously we know that there's going to be differentiation, particularly with the special ed things. But was just curious on that line. I know that was one of the first slides you gave, the encumbrance versus the year-to-date. And just curious, I don't like touching the special ed line, given where we're at. But just would be curious too, if there's any wiggle rooms on those ones. I know many have gone before the appropriations committee this morning and this afternoon to talk about the governor's budget when it comes to some of our education fund spending, especially at the state level, especially in this area. But yeah, just curious. So the year-to-date expenditure, we're still anticipating that account balance to reduce further. Is that correct?
It could, as I understand it, after meeting with our special ed director today, there are several students that may require a higher level of care. Again, that's being monitored. So that could affect that $1.2 million. We can certainly apprise the board of that in the coming budget sessions to see if there are any changes there. But that's always the money that we, just so the board, for our newer board members, the money that we requested for next year, the $4.1 million, that reflects currently known students who we know will likely continue in a special education outplacement next year, as well as placeholders for 5 additional students, because you can't not expect, I mean, people move in and they need something very significant. It happens several times a year. It happened very recently, actually. So this is a volatile area. We're still doing, I think, very, very well here, but it can turn very quickly with those sorts of things. And I also wanted to mention to the board, with legislative, contacts and current budget deliberations at the state level, that we currently in our budget do not have the school-based health center at the high school or the Nor'easter Academy. Both of those, I've written a grant with my team for the Nor'easter Academy. And then we've been working with our legislators to ask for funding for the school-based health center, as well as grants. So those, if none of that comes through, we have those 2 programs would likely go away. I want to make sure I said that publicly. I do know the board's aware that I did put in the budget request for the mental health counselor at the high school, given all the discussion we've had at the board table about the value. I mean, not to say that those other programs don't have value, but the school-based health center is about $175,000 a year to run. And the Nor'easter Academy, the grant that was written is for $100,000. So they're both fairly pricey endeavors.
Ms. Beatrice?
Just a quick question. We've talked a lot about our non-certified staff. How are we with certified staff? Or do we have any positions that need filling, or are we okay going into the next year?
It was green. We are in good shape right now. We have filled a recent special ed vacancy. Where our work will be, or Mr. Diaz in his office's work will be, is our retired folks. We have about 6 folks retiring in the certified arena, but we've had good fortune that we tend to fill our positions pretty not easily, but we work hard at it and get good people. So the retirees, once the budget passes, we'll start that process as soon as possible. So right now we're in good shape certified.
Who was first? Ms. Weaver?
Are we having the same question? Are we anticipating hiring at a lower step? So any realized savings on that front? Are we budgeting for that?
I would have to defer to what Lynn put in the budget. These days, it's really hard to hire people at low steps, but I'll defer to Lynn about that.
For any of the shortage areas, I budgeted at a very high step because they tend to come in at a high step. For general education teachers, I budgeted at master's step 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I would say, I know some people that are coming in at step 4s from their
Yes.
masters
most-
with no teaching experience. Yeah, okay,
It's a
that's
good,
fair.
it's a good time to be a teacher.
And the follow-up would be, were any of them getting the retiree credits or things like that? That we would,
We did, one of the questions that came out in a previous board meeting was a teacher at E Green is going to start on the retirement increment. I don't know how many others we have currently, Lynn, that are in the increment program. That's factored into the budget. The one that caught everyone's eye is when we did a building by building, you saw that one stick out pretty vividly.
It's factored into the budget, and we also factored in additional monies in case anyone else did, because they have until June to tell us by contract.
Mr. Halloran?
Yes, that was in fact the question I was going to ask, because we've been surprised this year. We actually did hire at lower steps when we weren't expecting to, so it's a possibility. But I think another question I might have, maybe an ask, and we might already have this. Can we, based upon the budget that we just adopted, would it be possible to see a breakdown of what expenses are either legally or contractually obligated that we don't have any wiggle room with? Just sum it up and make it simple, like by percentage and dollar amount, if we don't have it already. Like, the blue pie chart, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is. Yep.
But this might also.
yeah,
there's
that's the one I
mandates
was thinking.
That's required.
But there,
Um,
didn't you have one that had like the percentage of the budget
do.
impact?
Yeah, I was looking for it. I didn't see it though.
Let me
And I
do a little
thought
due
it was
diligence
this
here.
one.
So this is, regardless of, this is the, what our impact is just from contractual obligations. So that's
Yep.
$2.1 million plus the unfunded mandates. And then obviously we have to provide benefits. And that was a huge, 18% leap this year. I know there was a pie chart on that.
Usually you have like a budget drivers.
Yep, here it is.
Yeah,
So,
63%.
yeah.
Okay.
so those are all just must do's.
Yep.
Transportation is a must do. It's a mandate. And special ed is a must do. I mean, that's why many of the things that Lynn referred to this evening were operational expenses that, you got to heat your building, but maybe you could look at whether it needed to be as high as it was. So those are the things that we looked at with a real critical eye, especially looking at the 5-year look back. It did give us some good information, and we can continue to do that
Yeah.
for
so
areas maybe that we haven't already talked about.
roughly as it is now, that's about 72% of the budget is pretty much mandated, contractually obligated. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sharma?
So just a quick question. So out of the ask that we have right now, right, what percent of that ask would be contracts? Would be, roughly about 4%, 3%, or?
Oh, of the total budget
Yeah,
increase?
Like, if you're asking like 7.3 with the benefits, what percent is just contracts and,
Well, 1.7% increase is for the para benefits. Lynn, I'm not sure if you'd be better suited to answer that question.
talking about just the contract salaries and all the stuff, that, what percent of the ask would that be approximately?
So total salaries is about 5.5 million, so,
More than our total ask, because we have the NLF that we were utilizing.
right, $1 million offset there. But, so if we take $1 million off of that, it's still 4.5 million. So what percentage of our budget is contractual obligations? Probably 2% of it,
From the ask right now, 7.5, 2%?
actually probably more than that, actually. It's about 4 out of the 5%. I mean, very little of it is not part of as you know, it's our biggest expenditure, our biggest piece of the pie. Is salaries and benefits. That makes up 53 plus 19 is, big ask, 84, 80, 82, I guess, 82%. And then special ed as well. That's all mandated. So that brings you up to 88%. So, all these are just, and then transportation obviously has to be. So very little of our pie here is not mandatory. I mean, operational expenses, as I mentioned, is an area you can look at. But at the end of the day, you do have to make sure your buildings are open, heat. I mean, as the board knows, I sent them an email yesterday. We had a minor flood at Wallace. You've got to take care of that. You've got to pay for the water extraction and the fans that are going and the things that need to take care of that. So those are things that come up that you don't always know are going to happen.
Mr. Skiba?
Yeah, does the need for special education teachers keep going up every year?
Yes.
So there's more, so the percentage of students there's more kids that need special education every year? There's
Yes, it's a national trend right now.
something in the water or is
I'm on a committee that's analyzing that. I think it's a combination of factors. Certainly, we're seeing kids come in with extreme needs, but there also is probably other factors that come into play. Certainly, Connecticut's way of doing special ed business. But if you look even at this chart here, in the last 7 years, we've gone up almost 5% in special ed. So that's, 4%. It's a pretty significant uptick.
so you need more special ed teachers then?
You
to be
do,
hired.
yes. I would say the only real position we're recommending to add this year is the occupational therapist, because the students are coming in, that individual would work almost exclusively with special needs students who have, fine motor needs or other adaptability needs. So that is one of the few positions that we added this year is the OT because of special education issues.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Anything that we need Dr. Brummett and team to look into for next time about that? I was actually gonna propose not meeting tomorrow. We do have Monday scheduled and next Wednesday scheduled. Next Wednesday is the day that we would need to vote to transmit the budget to the town. But then we also have Monday. And so if there was anything urgent, we would keep the meeting. But if there's nothing urgent, then I was gonna propose to cancel for tomorrow and then meet back up on Wednesday. Go ahead, Mr. Holler.
Yeah, I'm actually in favor of that. I'm not officially making a motion, but just my 2 cents is that I would like a little bit of time to do my homework and go through. I don't know how much of that I'll accomplish in less than 24 hours between work and sleep, which I'm not going to sleep. It's fine. But I think that is a good idea. So do we need to officially make a motion?
Yeah,
I move that we cancel the Board of Education meeting tomorrow, February 19th. That's it.
that's it.
Second.
All right, motion on the table in a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Weaver?
Yeah, I feel like I have a couple questions that might take the weekend, so I just want to make sure,
Yes.
I send those off to you guys, and then it's not going to be 24 hours for you guys to answer these. So I just want to make sure you have the weekend, and then we'll come back, meet Monday and Wednesday. I feel comfortable enough with that, but open to others.
Did you second officially?
I did.
Yeah.
This is our discussion of it. So this is a discussion.
I think we all need sleep.
I've been up since 3.
Perfect. Tim doesn't really get a vote. Just call a roll. No worries.
Yeah, we can go, yeah, call it.
Mary Peachick,
Yes.
Tom Halloran,
Yes.
Martha Ludwig,
Yes.
Amy Parani,
Yes.
Ryan Skibo,
Yes.
Pam Shama,
Yes.
Dr. Gail Stanley,
No, next week doesn't work as well. Tomorrow would be better, but
Jessica Lever,
Yes.
motion passes 7-1.
Just to catch Mr. Newton, if we cancel tomorrow's meeting for the budget, just because if we have questions, it would be,
Sure, we have to have a chance to digest what we said.
That's
Yeah.
what we're saying. Just to be clear, we're not adding any meetings. The meetings for next week are already scheduled.
Monday and
Okay.
Wednesday. It's gonna be
Monday's our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I got it on the schedule.
That one was.
Ms. Weaver?
Just another question. I know we talked about this and stuff, but I just couldn't find it again. Do we have a list of the breakout? I know we are 48,000 less on the grants. But just if we have a breakout of each one that we're anticipating, and then if we have, with the ECS, just curious too. Just so we know the inputs, so to speak. That would be helpful too. Thank you.
Mr. Sharma?
Just, so for the next meeting, can you just have maybe, an exact breakdown of like what percent of our ask is salaries, contracts?
Yeah, I think, like in the past presentations, we have the pie chart this time, but in the past, there's been like the total number of increase, like the total increase and then the percentage that it accounts to. Maybe just add that slide. Or put on the pie chart, that would be fine too. Mr. Newton?
Question, I like that pie chart that broke out the salaries and the benefits. Can it be broken out into all 8 areas, such as each school, what each school's salaries and benefits are, Board of Ed, high school, just so we can get a picture of everything? Because I get that. For each school and each area, we do Board of Ed too, so, thank you.
Dr. Stanley?
thanks. I would also like to propose or get what it would look like for a percentage increase if we actually keep our reliance on the non-lapsing fund similar to what we have in the past years. Since the information that you showed earlier is we haven't actually dipped into the non-lapsing fund in several years. It just seems like this percentage increase is not sustainable. And so I would like to see what it would look like if we relied on the non-lapsing fund since we haven't actually done that.
So like increase, instead of the reliance being 1 million, make it 2 or
The 3.2 million, which we've done budgeted in for this previous year.
okay. Do we have any other questions? Obviously, email works too if we're not ready currently. Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask with the accounted for versus the actuals and stuff, we're doing those on a monthly basis, right? Is that correct? We do those okay, so it won't be till next month, so never mind. But I think would be curious, the other question I had was, for the benefits side of things, that's already been accounted for in terms of with our agent of record. So that is kind of a non-changing one, is what we're saying. Okay. Just want to clarify, like that one is a number we're not changing. Those are the other numbers we're not kind of changing.
And that isn't, there's no
No.
way it will go down, or are we waiting to hear still and we won't hear until after?
The next time scheduled to hear is April.
Okay.
I
So
can
after the budget.
attempt to see if we can get the information sooner. I'll make a phone call
I
tomorrow.
mean, yeah, if you, worth a shot, but yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess I'll just put it out there. Do we want to make these cuts presented currently, or do you want to just wait until Monday and then we can just do them all together? Because I think there's a couple outstanding questions proposed, or we can do what was presented today and then I guess that's up to anyone. Go ahead, Dr. Stanley. Oh,
Oh, I think we're pretty much in agreement. I would propose to go ahead and make the cuts that were presented this evening. Although I would keep the printing in the adult education and the printing for the I propose to keep in the cost as it was in the original for getting the data for the kindergarten enrollment and the printing. I think those were pretty negligible offsets.
yeah. Yeah, and those were not listed on this recommended cut, correct?
Mentioned but not listed.
Did you have something else, Mr. Halloran?
So this is. So if I could just clarify for the board, if they're going to make a motion, the combination of all the reductions we've made this evening, but inclusive of the para benefit package, the board would be reducing the budget to 97,903,403 or 6.87%, which is line 61 on this document.
Can you just, oh, wait, 61.
Is that correct, Lynn?
What about the time work, like 60?
Did you want to include the cuts to the time work bonus in the building subs or no?
I would recommend waiting on that until we know where we stand on the benefits.
Then you are absolutely correct. It is line 61, 6.87%.
So I'll put my cursor by it.
Well, I think that we can include them, but what I was saying is when we talk to the board, the town council, like we have like a asterisk and says that if you were not willing to fund para benefits, then we would require these dollar amounts to be added back.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So they couldn't just be like, we're cutting it by about 1.6 million. They'd have to be like, they would cut it by, they could only cut it by 1.4, whatever yeah. Cause then we have it just, it's all clean. Cause if we don't do that, then we'd have to go back. Oh, just kidding. We don't need that 200,000 in the final amount. But I think like, I know what you're getting at and we need to make sure that we account for that. Yeah. So I think we can reduce it by that full amount. So that 6.64, or reduce it by whatever the total is. And, but then we just have to make sure that the town
I see
manager
what
and
you're
the
saying,
town
yes.
council understands that. And then if there was that other contracted services line item on Monday that we
Yes,
reduced, then
yep.
that would be included as well. Yeah, Dr. Stanley, go ahead. If you have it.
I have the numbers if you want them. The reduction of those,
Okay.
because we have to do it. Sorry, this is gonna be a motion. On the.
Can you just put back the motion? That's Are you doing all of the accounts or just as?
I would say as presented by the CFO. Okay. We don't need the percentage on this though, right?
No, you need the total.
Just the total. Okay. Okay, so it's gonna be move the 2026-2027 Board of Education budget be adjusted by the subtraction of $535,368 as presented by the CFO recommendations.
Second.
Yeah, can you just go back to the spreadsheet? Lynn, do you agree with that number?
That's the 98,
Can you say it one more time? 535?
368, that's 98,
it may be, it'd probably be wise to
Sum up,
put the total budget ask at this point with the percentage increase, just to make it a complete package.
okay, so
I will amend my motion to move that the 2026-2027 Board of Education budget be reduced by $535,368, resulting in a total budget of $97,698,403 as presented by the recommendations of the CFO.
Second.
okay, we have a motion, amended motion and a second. I think we just have to sum up column C.
It's actually increasing because we're adding the 1.6.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not a decrease.
We started at 98 because we didn't actually start with the 5.4. We started with the 7.3.
Got it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in what was presented. I don't believe that was in what was presented in the superintendent's budget. The 1.6 million was not there.
It was separated.
Yeah, but we,
That's
vote-
what we accepted as the
we
budget.
accepted it as with the 1.6. Yeah,
Yes.
yep.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I was thinking the same thing. Don't worry.
I know, having
This is what it looked
multiple
like.
versions is confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we accepted, the 98, 223, and then we cut it.
Yeah. 233.
233.771.
The 7.2.
Blue line.
Presented, then it goes down to 6.64. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, so just for clarification, we're cutting 535,368, which will result in a budget of ask of 6.64% or 97,698,403 from the superintendent's budget.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. And is there any discussion or further clarification? Again, yes, we still have Monday's meeting to do more, but for now, this is where we are. A work in progress.
Yes.
Yeah, so is there any discussion for the motion? Okay, we can kind of vote, please.
Mary Beecher,
Yes.
Tom Halloran,
Yes.
Marissa Lindsay,
Yes.
Yes.
Amy Parati,
Yes.
Brian Skibo,
Yes.
Sam Sharp,
Yes.
Bill Stanley,
Yes.
Jessica Weaver.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion or questions on the budget? Ms. Lindsay?
Could we get, I would like a copy if possible, your slideshow? A copy of it? Do we have that in our emails? I don't remember seeing it.
I can resend it.
I would appreciate
Not
that.
a problem.
Absolutely.
Could I get a printed copy too? I like print, sorry.
The spreadsheets are in the drive too, if you see it. Yeah. So like. Okay.
Okay. And then we don't have to do anything for the buses. I think that was just a heads up for now that that's
FYI.
what he's looking at and we can,
Just to clarify, that's not in the operating though.
yeah.
Absolutely not.
So
No,
just-
that's,
Don't look at that percent. That's
it's
not
a
in the percent.
conversational component, not in the operating.
Not-
Mm-mm.
That 7 point, don't look at that. That's
Nope.
not there. Thank you. Okay. Don't want confusion.
Yeah. Okay. Then it looks like we're back to public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. And we need to modify our agenda to start saying 4 minutes. Right. That policy passed. If there's anyone online who would like to speak, you may raise your hand. I am not seeing any. All right, remarks by board members, bless you. No, Ms. Weaver.
Just want to say thank you again, Lynn. It's so exciting. I love just like, if you find a couple other 100,000, it's always good. But no, appreciate the work already. Once again, thank for the staff. Thank you again. Thanks to board members for continuing to ask questions, and apologies in advance for my emailed questions. But excited to see you guys next week.
Hi.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned 8:31 PM.